Surprise, surprise, the starters are going to play in the preseason. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day each and every day. Thank you to my off-season warriors, my hashtag everydayers. We made it. Next time we talk, we will have a football game to break down. We're going to do the postcast. Audio will be on the Locked On Vikings feed, so if you're an audio listener, that'll be right to your phone. Otherwise, if you want to catch it on YouTube, you can catch it on the Locked On Minnesota Sports YouTube channel, so check that out. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. It's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today, I want to talk about the upcoming Minnesota Vikings Las Vegas Raiders game coming up on Saturday at US Bank Stadium. So I've got a few things up on the docket here. For one, I got a quick clip from your boy Q, who does Locked On Raiders, telling us the lowdown on the Raiders, telling us what we need to know there. And then I have a bunch of your bold predictions for the entire season. This is in addition to the bold predictions tradition that we've had for a few years here now on Locked On Vikings. This will be the fourth year of bold predictions, and I'm adding season-long ones to it. So you guys gave me a bunch of your wildest and wackiest season-long predictions, and we're going to track them all year. That should be kind of fun. We'll also do the bold predictions week by week like we always do. I'm just adding to the fun. It's just always more. You always get more with Locked On Vikings. Never less. That's the promise. First things first, however, Sam Darnold and the rest of the Vikings starters, for the most part, are going to play in this preseason game. This is a first for Kevin O'Connell. He confirmed it on the podium in the press conference, and he said, "Yep, we're gonna start the majority of the players," was the way that he put it. So we're gonna see Sam Darnold. He said probably no Justin Jefferson, probably no Harrison Smith. I'm gonna imagine somebody like Christian Darrisaw. Probably don't see a ton of him either. Although maybe like with the O-line being together. That like you might want that chemistry, right? You might want all five to be together for a little bit. I'm gonna guess you see those starters for like a drive, but it's more than you've seen before. So we will get to see a little bit of the Sam Darnold to Jefferson connection. What's this gonna look like in the regular season? We'll maybe get a little bit of that. I still like I do feel like it could be like one drive and then there's like a sack, 3 and out, and then they punt, and then that's all you see. And then JJ McCarthy's coming in. And we're going to see a lot of JJ McCarthy. The story of this game is going to be how'd JJ McCarthy do? That's going to be what I spend most of my time analyzing. That's going to be what I think most people are going to spend most of their time talking about, unless there is some other really intense storyline that comes out of this. But hey, if you're one of those people that thinks, man, I wish they played the starters. I wish they played the starters. You're getting what you want. I think that argument is a little bit like, here's where I've been on this. I think that the idea of using joint practices as your preparatory work is more reps and safer reps than the preseason. The preseason gives you a little bit more of like the game operation. So, you're getting your substitutions in and calling timeouts and getting the plays in with a 40-second clock and all that stuff. But also, I think crucially, it's on TV, so we get to see it. And we don't get to see joint practices unless you actually went to the joint practices. So you don't really get to see the preparation, and it's harder to believe that it happened. But the Vikings got off to a slow start last year. They were turnover heavy, they were penalty heavy, and everybody said, well, why they were so sloppy? Why didn't they play in the preseason? But if you remember a year before, they started 2022, 5-1 was like the one dip against the Eagles, and otherwise they played a whole bunch of games like pretty clean. And like the week one, they blasted the Packers, and they were not supposed to do that. So I think that preparatory strategy can work. It's not the only thing you have to do, right? The Vikings clearly did not prepare turnovers enough. They didn't prioritize that enough in camp, but that has nothing to do with the preseason. So personally, I like not playing the starters, because now if anyone gets hurt in this game, if anyone important gets hurt in this game, we are going to hear a way louder chorus of, oh my God, why would you bother playing anybody in the preseason? The preseason doesn't even matter. Why are the starters playing? Put them all on ice, put them all in bubble wrap. What are we doing? And I'm like, if somebody gets hurt, I don't want to hear that, especially from those of you that really, really wanted to second guess everything that O'Connell did in preseason. But it's interesting that O'Connell has now kind of come around. Maybe he does agree with the narrative of like these turnovers were because we didn't do enough preseason. Maybe more preseason would be it. But the operational part of the Vikings last year did struggle. And I do think that could be chalked up to it. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze personally. But hey, they don't really, that's why the Vikings don't pay me the big bucks. They pay Kevin O'Connell the big bucks. So we'll see how that affects things, if at all. But selfishly, as a fan, I am excited to see it. Yes, I get to see Sam Darnold. Well, not Sam Darnold to Sam Darnold to Jordan Addison. I bet you'll see. Maybe he won't play either, but you'll get to see a little bit of Darnold. You'll get to see a little bit of that O-line. By the way, Monday Morning Quarterback SI did a little bit of a report from Vikings training camp, and a lot of the narratives that they're saying is stuff that we already knew, but for the national audience, they're saying, "Oh yeah, Sam Darnold's probably QB1." Like, we know that because we're Vikings fans, but they did also shout out Blake Brandel as like one of the rising stars of camp, which nobody's really reported. Nobody watches the trenches, right? Which is a shame. But SI did, and they were like, yeah, Blake Brandel looks like he's just like got that job. And if you want to believe that there's a competition at guard between Ed Ingram and Dalton Reisner, I need to see it to believe it. But that if it is, then that became a one-on-one, and Blake Brandel took one of the guard spots. I think we can probably just like, if you haven't locked that in already, it's I believe safe to. So now what I want to do is hear a little bit from your boy Q. We'll talk about what to expect from the Raiders and then go into a lot of season-long bold predictions. So here is your boy Q.
What's happening? Is Q Myers from the Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to shout out to my man Luke for inviting me onto the show to give a quick preview of kind of what to look for from the silver and black side of things when it comes to preseason game number 1 on Saturday versus the Minnesota Vikings. And Luke, thank you so much for the invite. I do appreciate you. And when it comes to the Raiders and what to really look for, it's all about the quarterback competition. We just spent 17 days in Costa Mesa, California, watching this team, trying to determine who the starting quarterback is going to be in 2024, whether it's going to be Gardner Minshew, who the Raiders signed as a free agent, gave him 2 years, $25 million, but $15 million is guaranteed, or is it going to be the second-year guy out of Purdue, Aiden O'Connell, who, flashed, and especially at the end of the season last year, did a really good job. In 17 days, 11 practices, I should say, thought that, one of those quarterbacks was really going to take control of that job, and so far, they haven't, right? And so they're going to need preseason games. It's going to start on Saturday with Minnesota. It'll probably take a couple preseason games. But Gardner Minshew is the guy that can run around. They'll play a little backyard football, and Aiden O'Connell wants to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball down the field. It's really going to come down to who doesn't turn the ball over, who takes care of the ball the most, and who can actually lead the Raiders' offense. So that's obviously going to be the biggest question going into the game, and the biggest talking point going into the game is what quarterback looks the best if either one of these guys steps up and looks the best. As far as some offensive players to pay attention to, you look for a guy like Dylan Lobby, 6th-round running back out of New Hampshire, very small school, but we like to call him like the Walmart version of Christian McCaffrey. He just kind of, he wears number 23 just like C-Mac does, but he does multiple things. I think he's going to be a guy that's really going to do well with this new kickoff rule, but he's also going to get involved offensively. He was a 6th-round pick. Going to the 3rd round, DJ Glaze, he's a tackle. He could play guard if need be, but he got an opportunity in training camp when Thayer Munford, the starting right tackle, went down with a hand injury, got thrown into the fire, had to go up against Max Crosby and did a pretty good job, so he's been getting some attention. So I'm sure the Raiders are going to want to give him an extra look, right? Zamir White, he's taking over for Josh Jacobs, who's now in Green Bay, as you know, and so is he going to be able to fill that void that Josh Jacobs has held down for so long, right? Those are some pretty big shoes that he needs to fill. Alexander Madison is the number 2 running back. He'll get some burn as well. And so, obviously Viking fans, a lot about Alexander Madison. I think he's back in a role that he's comfortable with, the number 2 role as opposed to the lead back guy. So I don't know how long the starters are going to play, but Antonio Pierce did let us know that Aiden O'Connell is going to play a quarter, Gardner Minshew is going to play a quarter, as they're both trying to establish who the starting quarterback is going to be. So I would assume, and I know assuming is dangerous, that you're going to see starters playing a little bit longer than you normally would in preseason game number 1, because you got to have them have a fair shot at, okay, who's going to be the guy and who are they working with, right? You don't want to put Aiden O'Connell out there with the 3rd string guys or the late second guys. You want to give them the fair shot, and you don't want to put Gardner Minshew out there with 2nd and 3rd string guys. So I think the starters are going to play a little bit more than normal. And I also think that the defense, and I'm not too sure who's going to be out there, the defenses look great all training camp long. I think some of the defense is going to want to, get after the Vikings a little bit, and J.J. McCarthy in particular. I know Raider Nation has brought it up a few times that they heard comments about him saying the Raiders' defense is vanilla, and, Raider Nation wants that defense to go out there and prove that they're anything but vanilla. I don't know how much the team cares about that, but they do find things to try to motivate them and get them fired up, and so that could be one of them. And, I don't know how long they'll be in there, if they're even in there when J.J. McCarthy plays, but that could be a storyline to pay attention to as well. For more on the Silver and Black, make sure you tune into the Locked On Raiders podcast.
I completely forgot about the McCarthy stuff. We got preseason bulletin board material. What more could you want? Okay, I've got a bunch of thoughts on that, so I'll share those and then we'll get into the bold predictions next. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by eBay Motors. Whether you use your car just to get from point A to point B, whether it's something you use like for towing power that you really need as a tool to get your job done, or whether it's more of a fashion accessory for you, it's important to take care of that thing, keep it running smoothly, and keep it looking fresh. So whether it is like a new roof rack or an LED headlight or something a little bit more practical, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for any make and model. Whatever it is, they will make sure that it fits your car. That is the eBay Guaranteed Fit. It will guaranteed fit your ride every single time or your money back. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. When you're done here, you got a fantasy draft coming up. You're probably trying to prepare for that. Go check out Locked On Fantasy Football and listen to that show every single day, all the way through the season, waiver wire pickup, start, sit decisions, all that. Get that edge over the absolute numbskulls in your office pool that aren't going to know what Vinny Iyer is telling them to go get that help. Okay, so continuing with this Vikings Raiders preview, so there's a couple things that Q mentioned that are worth talking about. So if you aren't familiar with the JJ McCarthy thing, so he had a press conference and they said, hey, what are you looking forward to about the preseason game? And he said, to be honest, I'm looking forward to going up against a more vanilla defense than Flores's. Flores's has been insane. I'm looking forward to going up against something a little more normal. And apparently, the Raiders world has really picked up on this. And sure, anything can be bulletin board material. I don't begrudge the Raiders taking anything, even if they do purposefully take it out of context. You're allowed to, whatever motivates you. But sorry, Raiders fans, it's gonna be more vanilla than Brian Flores. Have you seen Brian Flores' defense? It's insane. Flores is a complete psychopath. He's a totally insane person. And I love Patrick. I actually liked Patrick Graham as a head coach for the Minnesota Vikings a couple years ago when they were doing their head coaching search. I love Patrick Graham. And I think he's a fairly innovative defensive coordinator in his own right. He's not Flores. Flores is on a deserted island by himself, whispering sweet nothings into it, Napoleon Bonaparte style. While Patrick Graham is maybe, sailing a new sea. But also, it's a preseason. You guys are going to do a vanilla defense. What are you talking about? You're not going to bring out your exotic blitzes against the Vikings. You would never show that in the preseason. You're going to do the vanilla stuff. It's what everybody does. The Vikings are going to be more vanilla than normal anyways, too. I'm sorry. Where is the lie? I guess that's where I sit on that. But I'm going to be honest, I totally forgot Alexander Madison was in Vegas too. So I guess we'll have the comeback, the revenge game, Alexander Madison returning to US Bank Stadium. That should be kind of fun. And I think with all of those running backs with Zamir White and all that, and Dylan Laube, that's going to, I think, put a diversified approach of a diversified set of challenges to the linebackers in particular and to the safeties in particular. And when guys like Brian Asamoah and Lewis Cine are fighting for their lives. And with Lewis Cine in particular, tackling and missing tackles, I think was a big reason he didn't get on the field last year. I don't think it was the only reason, but I think if you could be a sound tackler, you could be a little bit more, a little bit more patient with him maybe being a step late to some things because he didn't trigger fast enough, but at least he'll make the tackle when he gets there. But if he's late and he misses the tackle, you're giving up touchdowns. You cannot trust that guy on the field, right? And that's kind of what we saw in the preseason was late and missing tackles. You can't do that. So if he can, get somebody shiftier like Lauby on the ground, if he can get somebody a little bit stronger like Madison on the ground, there is an opportunity to showcase this, and there's an opportunity for your weaknesses to be exposed there. And that makes for an interesting set of challenges. I'm like glad that it's the Raiders. That's a diverse running back group with very specialized skill sets, which is a very instructive thing to learn on. I'll be curious about their QB battle too, just from from an outsider perspective. I liked Gardner Minshew more about the vibes than about the quarterback that he is, and Aiden O'Connell, to be honest with you, doesn't move me at all. Maybe it's because the most exposure I had to him was a shutout where he did not score and he was put in absolute hell by Brian Flores. But I also I don't know. I guess they also hung 60 on the Raiders the next day, so maybe I should not overreact to the one game that I'm overexposed to, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, hoping everybody stays healthy, of course. But let's move on to the bold predictions. I've got more bold predictions than will fit in one segment of a Locked On podcast. So we're going to start them now. So here's the deal with bold predictions. All right, everybody listen up, okay? This is the bold prediction submitters. All right, we got to talk. So every year, Locked On Vikings, we do bold predictions every week. Give me your wackiest, silliest predictions. This is not your bold prediction segment like you will find on many other radio shows where you just say a large stat line. I am looking for stuff that is entertaining to track and stuff that I have never thought of before. And you guys did great here on this one. A lot of awesome examples. But if you just say, I was looking for season-long predictions, and some people said, the Vikings go 13-4. It's okay, well, that's bold. Yeah, that's pretty outside of what everybody expects. But that's not fun to track. That's just a win-loss record. You know what I mean? Get a little creative with it. Have a little bit of fun with it. That's what I want out of these bold predictions. If you just give me a player and a stat line, I will almost never pick it. And here is the way that this works. I choose the ones that I enjoy. If you get one right, I'll make it worth your while somehow. I haven't decided what that'll be, but we'll figure it out if and when it comes. Last year, we didn't get any, and that's the way it should be. The year before, I think we got 2. So I want these to be rare. I want these to be bold enough to be virtually impossible, but maybe one will hit. So I've got a whole bunch of season-long ones that we can track all year long. And the first one comes from Sam Al-Gaib, who, 6 people said this, so I felt like I had to pick it. Sam Darnold will win MVP. You see how that perfectly straddles the line between absurdly impossible, but actually kind of technically possible? That's exactly where I want it. I want it to be technically possible. If you say something like Justin Jefferson throws 10 touchdown passes, okay, that's not happening. He's not going to throw 10 touchdown passes. If he throws 1 or 2 touchdown passes, that could be interesting. And somebody submitted that. I didn't pick it because I didn't find it quite creative enough. But you get what I mean when it comes to the level of boldness, and I'll help you out with some of these too. If I like the idea behind it, but I think you've just picked the wrong number, I'll put it into where I think the range is right, and we'll work together on this. But Sam Darnold will win MVP from Sam Al-Gaib and a whole bunch of people. Should be pretty fun to track that. He would have to start all year for that to happen, which a lot of these are predicated on one quarterback starting all year long, which immediately makes them very bold. In a similar vein, a whole bunch of people said what I'll take from Vikes Legend, because he expanded it a little bit. He or she expanded it a little bit. Said the Vikes get 4 All-Pros. That is already very bold. Getting just a couple All-Pros on any team, even a very good one, is really, really hard. All-Pros are way more exclusive than Pro Bowls. And getting All-Pro, you got to be top 1 or 2 in your position. Jettis, of course. Ivan Pace and Darisaw. Okay, sure. I see. Ivan Pace, that's pretty bold, but I love the hype. And then Josh Metellus. A whole bunch of people said Josh Metellus All-Pro. So I went with this one that added a little bit more intrigue to it, but a whole bunch of people had Metellus All-Pro. So I felt like I had to put that one in there. I've got several more bold predictions. That's going to be the rest of the show. So we will flash through all of those next. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job. Some 70% of LinkedIn users don't ever visit other leading job sites, but if your thing comes across their feed, they might be a little bit interested and you might find access to somebody that you otherwise wouldn't have even thought to ask about this job. So if you are hiring for a small business, and Lord knows, LinkedIn knows, you're dealing with a lot more than just a hiring responsibility. It's probably a side project that you had to do on top of all of your other work, and you don't have time to go painstakingly through a whole bajillion resumes. So LinkedIn can help you out with all kinds of features that help you write your job description and also sift through all the resumes when they come in. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp. If you've been thinking about getting into therapy, but you're maybe a little bit worried about making it work with your schedule, that's where BetterHelp comes in. They are designed to be flexible and convenient, suited to your schedule, whether it's video chat or just calling or in person, whatever you're comfortable with, they can work with, and they'll set you up with a therapist they think is right for you. And if you don't agree, if that therapist doesn't turn out to be right for you, it's no worries. You can switch at any time, and I strongly recommend that you do that. I am a big proponent of people getting into therapy, especially us fellas. I think we got to be more serious about taking care of our mental health, and therapy, it's like going to the gym for that. It's maintenance, and it's taking care of yourself in a way that a lot of people neglect, because for whatever reason, if they have like one bad experience with therapy, they think all therapy is like that, but it's not all like that. It's very, very diverse. So try a few people and see what you like, and BetterHelp can sort of facilitate that auditioning process. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Continuing on with the boldest of bold predictions here on the Locked On Vikings podcast. We will be tracking these bold predictions all season long. Every Friday will be bold prediction day, and I'll start the segment by saying if any of them got crossed out, made to be impossible, like if Sam Darnold gets benched, we'll cross out the Sam Darnold MVP one, that kind of stuff. But here are the rest of them. I got more than what I usually do because I loved what you guys sent so much. I just had to pick so many more. The next one comes from Eric the Red, who says, as the starting quarterback for a different team, Sam Darnold will beat the Vikings in a game. I love this so much. So this is, again, extremely impossible, but technically plausible. Where you have, like a Carson Wentz, Sam Bradford style, we'll have some great preseason games from JJ McCarthy, and somebody's QB will get hurt, and we'll trade Sam Darnold to them, and then we'll play them later in the year. We'll get a first round pick for it because they're so desperate, right? And then we'll play him in the year, and then he'll beat us there. I think the biggest deadbolt on this is that I don't think the Vikings would pull the trigger on that to a team that is on their schedule this year. Like Sam Darnold, outside of Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips themselves, may be the next most knowledgeable guy in the Vikings offense. Like he probably knows it the best in that room, and probably the best on that roster, and probably better than like position coaches outside of like the guys that literally drew it up. So putting him into a team that's going to come here and play us is like, you're probably giving up too many state secrets there. I don't think that you can like justify doing that, but hey, certainly weirder things have happened, and I love the idea of it. So we'll be on, if Sam Darnold does get like traded at the deadline to like the Seahawks because like Geno got hurt or something, and like we will be watching this with great interest. The next one comes from Milo Grams, who said that 3 different Vikings will throw a touchdown and only one will be a quarterback. I like that this one came up accidentally. Milo Grams thought that he was doing a prediction for just the preseason game, which also very fun, bold prediction for just the preseason game. We're not doing that. He did it for just the season, and it totally works for just the season. 3 different people will throw a touchdown pass. So you need the same guy to start all year for this to happen. And I guess that would be Sam Darnold in most scenarios. So you need him to start all year for that to happen. Not outside of the realm of possibility, but with JJ McCarthy doing, by all accounts, pretty well in camp, starting to feel less and less likely. But also you need like weird trick, you need an Aaron Jones pop pass, you need a Justin Jefferson touchdown pass thing. So you need like some weird stuff to have, maybe like a punt pass or something like that. Said will be a quarterback according to the depth chart, which is a good stipulation, but I get it, right? It's Mullins, McCarthy, Darnold. You only get one of those, but I'm not going to say like, aha, gotcha, Ryan Wright is it actually technically a quarterback. because you could put him at a quarterback and like Madden. No, I'm not going to do that to you. But I love the scenario. What a wild season that would be, but not wild in the way that we expect. Like we expect some wildness from this one and a QB controversy, and eventually the rookie will come in and take over. We expect some hype, but we don't expect that kind of hype. And that means I like where your head's at. Hiort says John Parker Romo gets signed to another team, wins the starting job, then comes back to haunt the Vikings by scoring a game-winning field goal. So again, if we see a John Parker Romo news, we will watch it with great interest. I don't know if I anticipate that, considering that like he didn't even get to the preseason, didn't even get to he got one practice in proper camp before Will Reichard had the job, so it wasn't really a competition at all. But what a Minnesota Vikings prediction, right? Something happened before, and surely it will happen again. This is kind of so many of these bold predictions are just remembering stuff that happened before and then translating into what it would look like if it happened again. So the Dan Carlson thing happens again to us. Yeah, we'll see. I want to say there was another one. Like they went up against Riley Patterson. Was it Chase McLaughlin that smoked us once? He had a great game against us once after the Vikings cut him. I forget who it was. Let me know in the YouTube comments. You guys love correcting me. Vikings coverage school says Bynum leads the league in picks. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. God bless America. I love that one so much. Well, the Philippines, I guess. God bless the Philippines. Movie. Yep. Love it. I honestly, I don't think it's crazy. Bynum led the league in tackles for a while last year. I think he kind of fell off eventually, but he was toward the upper parts of the league in tackles for a long way. So prolific stats, he is not unfamiliar with this. He will be playing every rep, right? He's going to be a starting safety. He's not going to come off the field. And he's been having a pretty good camp. Looks like he's taken a measurable step forward. So the optimism, I think, is warranted. The boldness is right in that right area. You nailed it. I love this one. Deck with 2 C's, coming on to Kurt's territory a little bit there, says J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold tie for passing yards. Exact tie. Again, we will watch this with great. So you need the switch to happen at a certain time for this one, right? Like if the switch happens at the bye week, which is week 6, you can't get there. Because it's 6 weeks to 11 weeks. That's too much. You would need JJ McCarthy to be getting half of what Sam Darnold did. I don't think that they would make the switch if that were to be expected. But you would need to have some kind of weird back and forth chaos. But no, you need this to happen around week 8, week 9, right in the middle for this to be plausible. But if it does, oh my goodness, are we going to be watching this with a keen eye? Casey the Coolest, we had to do a little negotiation here, but we landed on the Vikings will win every revenge game. And he listed off the revenge games that he is counting. So I'm going off of his count on this. Falcons, Texans, obviously, Kirk Cousins, Danielle Hunter, a bunch of former Vikings on the Texans. The Cardinals for Byron Murphy, the Packers for Aaron Jones, the Rams for a bajillion people, including Kevin O'Connell, and the Jags for Josh Oliver. Personally, I don't think I need the Jags in this one, but you included it, so I'll include it. So the Vikings win all of their revenge games. Parlaying all of these games is crazy because there's some good teams. The Texans, good team. Packers are going to probably be a playoff team. Rams look like a playoff team to me. There's some good teams in here. So parlaying victories against all of those is sufficiently bold. Vikes notes says that King Kene breaks the single season kick return record with 5+. There's a world where by week 2, we don't even think this is bold because of some really cool, innovation. We don't really know how the new kickoff is going to play out. I mean, we've got enough data from the XFL to know that it's not going to break special teams or anything like that. But who knows, man? Kene Nwangwu is a very good kick returner, and now kick returns are back on the menu in a way that they weren't last year because of the way the rules were last year. So, all right, 5+, let's get it. And the last one I'm going to do, thank you all for your submissions, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to it, is from Skol Ross, who said that the Vikings will win all their games that fall on odd-numbered dates and lose all their games on even-numbered dates. I'm not looking up which is which. We'll just track this one as it goes, but I absolutely love that your brain somehow managed to puke that out. It is reflective of the kind of broken brain that I can really get behind. I love it. And I love that we're going to keep doing this all year long. Next bold prediction segment will be for week 1 against the Giants. So start cooking, get in the lab. I will talk to you all on the other side of the first preseason game against the Raiders. And as always, Skol.